What happens when the man who owns the resort is mistaken for just another rich guest? Yaron Keller leaned back in the passenger seat of the sleek black town car as it rolled up the winding coastal road. The ocean shimmered in the distance, and the sun cast a golden hue over the five-resort chain he'd bought nearly 8 years ago from a retiring hospitality magnate. Back then, the brand had been bleeding money. Yaron had poured everything into turning it around: new chefs, better training, tighter operations. But now, something felt off again. Complaints had been trickling in. A few bad reviews scattered across travel blogs, one from a veteran who claimed he'd been treated like a nuisance at the front desk. Another from a guest with mobility issues who said she was ignored when asking for help. Nothing concrete, just smoke. But Yaron knew where there's smoke, there's usually fire. He didn't trust filtered reports anymore, too many layers between him and the truth. So he came up with a plan. At 48, he could still pass for early 40s. He kept his beard neat, wore casual but expensive clothes, and rented a vintage convertible for show. He'd arrive posing as a high-end guest taking a VIP tour across all 5 resorts. No one at the properties had ever met him in person. He'd always worked through upper management. In fact, most staff probably didn't even know what he looked like. His disguise would hold. He called himself Illy. The first 2 resorts, both in Arizona, went smoothly. Staff were sharp, respectful, and warm. The third one just outside Santa Barbara was a mess. Rooms weren't ready, the front desk was overwhelmed, and the manager, a guy named Brett, seemed more interested in flirting with a bartender than handling a flood of waiting guests. Yaron made mental notes but said nothing. He still had 2 more resorts left to visit. The 4th one sat on a cliffside in Big Sur. It was the most luxurious of them all: cabins with infinity pools, private chefs, spa treatments. He arrived just after noon. The general manager, a woman named Teresa, gave him the full VIP guest tour treatment. She didn't recognize him, none of them had. His fake identity was airtight. His assistant had even created a fake LinkedIn for Illy Rowe, an investor from Florida. Teresa smiled wide. "We love showing off this property. You'll see it's the crown jewel." As they walked, Yaron kept his eyes open. Staff seemed rushed, a little stiff. There was a tension in the air. It wasn't obvious, but something was off. They passed the pool deck where a family with a special needs child was sitting under an umbrella. The boy was maybe 8. He flapped his hands and shouted happily. His mom smiled, talking softly to him. Then it happened. 2 staff members, both wearing resort polos, were standing near a towel station. One of them, a short guy with slicked back hair, nudged the other and said, loud enough for Yaron to hear, "Here we go again." Another screamer. The other, a young woman with a tight ponytail, rolled her eyes. Why do people bring kids like that to places like this? Seriously. Yaron stopped walking. Teresa was still talking, pointing at the spa building. Yaron turned, walked straight over, and stood in front of the 2 employees. "What did you just say?" They froze. The guy shrugged. "Nothing. Just talking." Yaron's eyes locked on him. "That's a guest, a child. You think mocking him is okay?" The woman shifted uncomfortably. "We didn't mean anything. Just you said it out loud in uniform in front of other guests." His voice was calm but cold. "Get your manager." Now, the 2 exchanged a look and walked off quickly. Teresa had doubled back. "Illy, what's going on?" Yaron turned to her. "Your staff just mocked a child with disabilities in front of me. I don't care how nice the cabins are. If this is how your team acts, something's broken." Teresa's face went pale. I'm so sorry. I'm not done with the tour," Yaron said, voice quiet. "But things are going to change here. Fast." He walked off before she could answer. Later that evening, after checking into his cabin, Yaron sat on the deck, staring out at the ocean. His thoughts were racing. He'd gone undercover to check on complaints, but this was different. This was personal. He took a deep breath. He needed to see the final resort before making any decisions. But he already knew once he revealed who he really was, there'd be hell to pay. And some people were going to lose their jobs. The next morning, Yaron left his cabin early. He walked the grounds slowly, watching how the staff interacted when they didn't think a guest was paying attention. The breakfast area was already filling with early risers. Servers moved quickly between tables, and the kitchen door swung open and shut with a steady rhythm. He caught glances of tense faces, eyes that darted toward supervisors before speaking. It wasn't chaos, but it wasn't calm either. It was the kind of energy people gave off when they were just trying to get through the day. He noticed a young man, maybe 22, 23, carrying 2 trays stacked with plates. He was tall, thin, and clearly struggling to balance both at once. A glass slid off one corner and shattered on the tile. A woman in a pressed gray blazer appeared from behind the bar. "Seriously, Javier." "Again, I'm sorry, Miss Lang," he said, crouching to pick up the shards with a napkin. "You're not paid to drop dishes. You're paid to carry them without making a scene. I'll sweep it up, you'll get out of the way and let someone competent handle it." Yaron stepped forward. He was trying to do the job of 2 people. Maybe that's worth considering before you humiliate him. Lang turned. Her gaze swept over him, taking in the expensive sunglasses, the pressed linen shirt, the watch. "I didn't realize you were watching." "I was," he said. "And I'll keep watching." Lang walked off without another word. Javier stood, holding the napkin full of glass, his hands trembling slightly. "You okay?" Yaron asked. "Yeah, she's just like that." "Is she always like that in front of guests?" "No. Usually she waits until they're gone." "How long have you worked here?" "About a year. I'm supposed to be part-time, but we're short-staffed, so I've been taking double shifts. My mom's sick, so I can't really say no right now." Yaron nodded once. "What's your hourly?" 17. "No benefits." He stepped aside, letting Javier get back to work, then turned and walked through the rear hallway that led toward the spa wing. He passed housekeeping carts lined up against the wall and 2 women in uniform folding towels at a breakneck pace. One of them, a middle-aged woman with short curls and a limp in her right leg, glanced at him, then quickly looked away. He opened the unmarked staff door at the end of the hallway and stepped into a service corridor. No one stopped him. No one asked who he was. He moved through the back of house like he belonged there. The staff break room was cramped, with a flickering fluorescent light and a vending machine that looked half broken. A man sat at one of the tables, staring at a cup of coffee. His shirt read maintenance and was stained with grease. Yaron walked in, poured himself water from the cooler and sat at the edge of the table. "You work on the pool system?" Yaron asked. "Yeah, and the HVAC, and the elevator when it gets stuck. Basically whatever they don't want to pay a contractor for. You get overtime," the man laughed, but it didn't carry any humor. "On paper, maybe. In real life, they just delay the clock-ins and say I logged it wrong." "Who's they?" "Teresa mostly, but she says it comes from corporate. That they're under pressure to keep payroll under a certain threshold." Yaron nodded. "Thanks." A door opened behind them. Lang stepped in, saw Yaron, and paused. "This area isn't open to guests." "I got turned around," he said, setting the cup down. "Didn't realize." She didn't answer, just held the door open for him. He followed her out. That afternoon, he requested a cabana by the adult pool, not to sunbathe, but to watch. For nearly 2 hours, he observed how the staff handled guests. Most did their jobs well, despite the obvious exhaustion on their faces. But it wasn't until a woman in her late 60s approached the towel kiosk that he saw another crack. She asked for assistance carrying her drinks to the lounger. The same young woman who'd mocked the child the day before was working the kiosk. She didn't look up from her phone. "You can manage 2 cups, can't you?" "I have arthritis in both hands," the guest said calmly. "That's not really my problem, is it?" Yaron stood. The guest walked away, carrying the drinks slowly, hands shaking. Yaron stepped up to the kiosk. "Name?" "What? Your name?" "Why?" "Because I'm about to make sure you never treat another guest like that again." She blinked. "You can't talk to me like that." "I don't even know who you are." He stared at her for a long beat. "You will." He walked straight to the front office. Teresa was behind the counter speaking to a concierge. "I need a word," Yaron said. She nodded, led him into a small office behind the reception desk. It was clean, with a shelf full of branded merchandise and a wall of security monitors. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "You've got one employee who insulted a child yesterday and today refused to assist a disabled guest. That's twice. She's done." "I'll speak with her." "No, she's done. If she's still on payroll by the end of the day, I walk. And I've got other resorts to compare this one against, so don't think I won't say something publicly." Teresa's expression shifted. "Understood." "And Lang," Yaron continued, "she's a problem. She's berating staff in front of guests. I heard her speak to a server like he was dirt. She's been with us for a long time. She's strict, but she's a liability. You want to keep her, fine, but I'll be passing that information along to corporate." Teresa paused. "May I ask who you're passing it to exactly?" Yaron reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded sheet. He laid it on the desk. It was a printout of the ownership document. His name sat at the bottom, above the controlling interest line. She stared at it for a long time. "You're Yaron Keller." Her mouth opened, then closed again. "I've been traveling underly row. I wanted to see how things ran without the filters, and I'm not impressed." Teresa straightened. "I didn't know. I know, that's the point." She looked down. "I'll terminate the employee. And I'll suspend Lang pending investigation." "Good, and I want a full audit of staff hours and pay. If I find one more person being shorted, I'll clean house." She nodded slowly. "Understood." Yaron left the office and walked outside. The sun was dipping lower now, casting long shadows across the deck. He passed the same family from the day before the boy was playing quietly with a toy boat in the shallow end. His mother smiled at him, unaware of the storm that had already started behind the scenes. He sat at the edge of a lounge chair and stared at the water. One more property left to visit. But already, this trip had stripped away any illusions he had about the state of his company. He wasn't angry anymore. Now he was focused. No more distance. No more relying on filtered reports. From now on, he would be the eyes behind every corner. By the time Yaron arrived at the final resort, the air had shifted. His posture was different, more alert, more deliberate. The stretch of highway had given him time to think, but not cool off. He hadn't come here to play the role of a silent observer anymore. He had one last property to inspect before decisions would start falling like dominoes. This resort, nestled in the redwoods near Mendocino, was the most secluded. It catered to guests seeking privacy: actors, musicians, tech founders. The entrance was marked only by a low wooden sign and a gravel path that wound upward through tall trees. The quiet was immediate. He checked in using the same alias, greeted by a front desk agent with a name tag that read Lara. Her tone was neutral, practiced to the point of being impersonal. She handed over the key without making eye contact. "You're in cabin 12. Maps in the folder." Yaron didn't say anything. She didn't ask if he needed help with bags, didn't offer any local information, didn't smile. Just turned to the next guest without acknowledgement. The cabin was a 10-minute walk through thick forest. The structure itself was stunning: cedar walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, a deck that overlooked a stream. Inside, the room was spotless. A handwritten welcome note sat on the nightstand, signed by someone named Ava. He made a mental note. Instead of unpacking, he headed straight to the staff areas. He didn't need permission anymore. He wasn't playing a part, he was gathering facts. The service hall behind the kitchen was cramped. A bulletin board hung crookedly, covered in outdated memos and a faded safety poster. Two younger employees in housekeeping uniforms were folding linens at a narrow table. One of them, a petite woman with dark circles under her eyes, rubbed her wrist between folds. "You doing okay?" Yaron asked. She looked up, surprised. "Yeah, just tired. We've been short 2 people for weeks. Management says they're hiring, but it's been the same 4 of us covering all 20 cabins." The other woman didn't look up, just kept folding. Her motions were robotic. "Who's your supervisor?" he asked. "Rena. She's not bad. She works shifts with us when it gets really bad." He nodded once and kept moving. In the kitchen, the staff was quiet, focused. The chef, a tall man with wide shoulders and a sleeve of tattoos, grilled vegetables while calling out orders. No one spoke unless necessary. The energy was tense but not hostile, just weary. Yaron leaned against the doorframe. "You the guy staying in 12? The chef asked without turning. "Yeah. Good, you'll be the only one on that side tonight. The other cabins are empty. You always this short-staffed. Only when someone quits, and someone always quits." "Why?" The chef flipped asparagus and plated them. "Because the GM doesn't talk to us. Because when the freezer broke, we used coolers for 3 days before anyone approved a repair. Because payroll messed up 4 of my line cook's checks and no one fixed it until he threatened to walk." "That enough?" Yaron's jaw tightened. "What's your name, Dax? You've been here long, 3 years. I only stay because I live 15 minutes away and I don't want to commute south." "Who's the one person here that holds it together?" Dax pointed with the tongs. "Ava, she's front desk, but she does everything. Fills in when housekeeping's short, helps guests when Lara disappears, even does laundry if it piles up. She's not a manager, but she should be." Yaron left the kitchen and made his way to the front office. It was empty, no one behind the desk. He waited. 5 minutes passed. A guest came in with a lost keycard and looked around. Yaron helped him search the drawers behind the desk. They found a spare card labeled 6 and handed it over, still no staff. At last, a woman stepped in from the side door, balancing a stack of towels and a clipboard. Her ponytail was messy and her shirt was damp at the collar. "You looking for someone?" she asked. "Ellie Rowe, cabin 12. Sorry, Lara was supposed to be here. She probably ducked out again." "You're Ava," she blinked. "Yeah." "How'd you know?" "I've been hearing your name all morning. That's either really good or really bad." "It's been good," she gave a tired laugh. "Well, I'm glad someone noticed. You're doing the work of 3 people. 4 today." The spa manager called out and the laundry machine jammed, so it's been a morning. Yaron paused. "You ever think about quitting?" "I do, but I like the guests, I like the place. It just feels like no one upstairs sees what's really happening." He nodded. "What if someone did?" "I'd be shocked." He waited until she turned back to the laundry before stepping away. That evening, just before sunset, he called an emergency meeting. He asked Ava to gather the staff in the back dining room. No upper management was informed. When the employees arrived, housekeepers, maintenance, servers, front desk, they found a man in a plain button-up shirt standing at the front of the room, hands clasped. Ava stood near the back, confused. "This won't take long," he said. "My name isn't Ellie Rowe, that was a cover. My real name is Yaron Keller. I own this resort, and the 4 others under the same brand." The room fell silent. "I came undercover because I stopped trusting filtered reports. I've been to each location and I've seen enough to know we have serious problems. Not with you. With the way you've been led." He pointed to the door. "Where's Lara?" "She left early," someone said. "She does that a lot. Starting tomorrow, she won't be returning." He looked around. "If anyone feels that's unfair, speak now." No one did. "Here's what's going to happen next. Every staff member here will be scheduled for a one-on-one conversation with me or someone from my office within the next 72 hours. You'll be paid for your time. I want to hear directly from you." A man with a maintenance badge raised a hand. "What about pay?" "Some of us are missing hours. Bring me documentation, I'll have it corrected, retroactively, no exceptions." Ava stepped forward slightly. "What about management, the people above us?" "I've already reviewed their performance. Some will be leaving, others will be reassigned. The ones who stay will answer directly to me." He looked at Ava. "Starting next week, we'll be promoting an interim manager, someone who's earned the trust of the team." She blinked. "Are you saying?" "Yes, if you're willing to take it." A few people clapped. One of the housekeepers grinned for the first time all day. Yaron waited for the room to settle. "This isn't a one-time fix. I'll be back, unannounced. I won't be hiding my name anymore, but I will still be watching." He stepped out to the hallway. Ava followed. "Why me?" she asked. "Because when everything else was falling apart, you didn't." She looked down, then nodded. "Okay, I'll do it. Good, you'll have support." I've already assigned an HR liaison to this property. And you'll report directly to me for the first 90 days. As he walked back to his cabin in the darkening woods, the air felt different, not lighter but real, honest. The illusion was gone, and in its place was a sense of clarity. The damage had been deeper than he thought. But now, at least, it was visible, and that meant it could be repaired. Yaron arrived back at his home office 3 days after the staff meeting at the Mendocino resort. The silence of his study felt sharper now, less like peace, more like distance. He sat down at the long oak desk he rarely used and opened the folder marked Field Reports. Inside were handwritten notes from each resort visit, each one stapled to a list of names, those who had stepped up, those who had failed, and those whose roles needed immediate review. He didn't hesitate. He picked up the phone and called his chief operations officer. "Schedule full audits for all 5 properties," he said. "I want third-party eyes on payroll, scheduling, and guest complaint logs. And I want them in the field within 72 hours. He hung up and began drafting letters, formal notices of termination for 3 regional managers, including Brett from Santa Barbara. He also assigned temporary leadership roles to 2 internal candidates who had been consistently named by their teams as trusted, including Dax, the chef from the Redwoods Resort, who would oversee operational logistics while Ava transitioned into her new role. The next call went to the legal team. He initiated a full review of the company's disciplinary protocols and guest grievance procedures, with a directive to formalize a zero-tolerance policy regarding discriminatory behavior. There would be no ambiguity, no second chances when it came to mocking a child or ignoring a disabled guest. That kind of rot had to be cut out entirely. A week later, Yaron returned to the Big Sur property, this time without a disguise. He requested a short all-staff meeting in the staff dining room. Word had already spread. Most employees stood quietly, waiting. He scanned the room until he saw Javier near the back, arms folded, shoulders tense. The young man didn't look away this time. "I'm not here for ceremony," Yaron said, "but I owe you all clarity." He paused. "I saw the way you were carrying this place while others were coasting. Some of you were working triple what you were paid for, not because you were asked, but because you didn't want to let guests down. That ends today." He pointed toward the exit. "Lang is no longer with the company, effective immediately. Her behavior towards staff was unacceptable. The same goes for the 2 employees who disrespected one of our guests and his family. They will not return." A few eyes widened, but no one objected. "Starting next week, we're bringing in temporary staff to backfill the gaps while we hire properly. You'll be consulted before any long-term hires are made. If someone doesn't fit the team, they won't stay." He turned toward Javier. "I read your file. You've never taken a sick day, never turned down a shift. That changes now. You'll be moved into a full-time role with benefits, and your pay will be adjusted to reflect what you've already earned in sweat." Javier opened his mouth, but no words came. He just gave a small nod. Yaron looked around the room again. "If you've been overlooked, underpaid, or mistreated, you will be heard. And if you're here just to collect a paycheck while disrespecting guests or coworkers, don't bother showing up tomorrow." He left before anyone could try to thank him. The following Monday, a new HR liaison arrived on site, along with a labor relations specialist. They didn't come with clipboards or checklists. They came with chairs, folding chairs they placed in the break room, and sat in from morning to evening, listening to anyone who wanted to talk. Every conversation was documented, and every concern was routed directly to Yaron's desk. At the Mendocino resort, Ava's first week as interim manager wasn't smooth. The laundry machine broke again. A pipe burst in cabin 4. 2 team members quit after being asked to actually follow procedure. But she handled it with urgency, fairness, and a kind of quiet authority that no one taught her but everyone respected. Yaron returned unannounced late in the week. He didn't check in. He walked straight to the staff area. This time, the front office wasn't empty. A new front desk hire greeted him, offered water, and asked if he needed help with anything. Ava had cleaned house. He found her behind the reception desk, entering inventory into the system manually. "I didn't know you were visiting," she said, standing. "That's the idea," he replied. "How's the team holding up?" "We're tired. But no one's dragging their feet anymore. They know what's expected, and they know someone's finally paying attention." "Any issues I should know about?" she hesitated. "We could use more help in housekeeping." The temp agency sent 2 workers who didn't show up on the second day. "I've been filling in when I can, but we need to hire internally." He nodded. "Anyone you'd recommend?" "Michelle. She doesn't say much, but she works like 3 people. She's the reason we got through last weekend." "Then promote her," she blinked. "Just like that, just like that." At the Santa Barbara resort, the change was more stark. Brett's absence had left a hole, but not the kind that created chaos. Instead, staff seemed lighter, freer. The bartender he used to distract during peak hours had stepped up, taking over floor scheduling and training 2 new hires. Yaron approved a salary bump and made her acting supervisor. He didn't announce it in a meeting. He just handed her the offer letter and said, "You've earned it." "Keep going." Back at corporate, Yaron rewrote the performance review system. Bonuses would no longer be based solely on guest satisfaction scores or profit margins. Team morale, retention, and peer evaluations would drive half of every manager's review. If someone couldn't lead people with integrity, they wouldn't lead at all. He also launched a monthly anonymous feedback system, routed through an external vendor to ensure no internal filtering. Every employee at every level could submit concerns, ideas, or complaints. He'd read them all. At the end of the quarter, he sent a message to every employee across all 5 resorts. It was short. "The past few weeks have shown me what's working and what's not. From now on, my office is open. My expectations are clear. Lead with respect or don't lead at all. Serve with care or step aside. I built this company to be something I could be proud of. I forgot that pride comes from people, not profits. I won't forget again." Nothing changed overnight. Staffing shortages didn't disappear. Guest complaints still came in, some fair, some not, but something deeper had shifted. At the Big Sur resort, Javier started showing up with a fresh shirt and a straighter posture. He didn't rush anymore. He didn't have to. In Mendocino, Ava stopped doing laundry herself. Michelle took over the department, and within 2 weeks, the linen tracking system was more accurate than it had ever been at corporate. The weekly reports no longer sugar-coated problems. They detailed them, and they came with solutions. Yaron didn't go undercover again. He didn't need to. He visited often, unannounced. Not to catch anyone, but to remind them that he was still watching, still walking the halls, still listening. The man who once ran his business from a distance now sat beside his people. And that, more than anything, changed the way the company worked. Not because he demanded it, because he proved it mattered.